Now we have a very short thing where Carl and I were just going to go over a little bit of where to find things on the web that might be of use to this community of developers. Jonathan mentioned one thing. I guess I'm going to start sharing my screen and just kind of point people to those as well. I'm also a newbie to this, so I think share screen. I'm going to share this screen. Share. Sorry, my email's not so interesting. Okay, so if you go to GitHub. Okay. So if you go to GitHub. I have a login, but if people haven't got a login, that's something you can maybe do while you're waiting or listening to things over the break. Then one way to do that is to in the search. Well, I guess okay. On the search thing here, which may be, I see. I think I'm not presenting to everyone. Okay.
I guess it's.
I think it's kind of overlaying that thing. You can't see where I'm. You can't see where I'm. I think other people can probably, but.
Yeah, we can.
You can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I type world wide telescope. Okay. And actually, I think I had this problem before where you have to. Okay, but there is a way to do a search. The problem is when you do it this way, you do get this, but oh, it's a user. You hit users.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one way to do it. But or I think in the web pages we have the links to the direct site. Yeah. So and Jonathan did go over this, but when you go to the organization is Worldwide Telescope, one word, and then there are these. This is where you find the repos. I think around the table there are people who are familiar with various pieces of it, and so if you haven't already, you can take a look at the issues within Worldwide Telescope that that are there, and so there's active discussions on various issues that have been brought up, and you can kind of get a sense of where the activity is done, and I know that James, especially James, Cecilia, and Carl are more familiar with how to. There's also ways to get analytics on what pieces of the repo are getting more activity and things like that, which I'm not as familiar with, but it has a lot of power for that if you were interested in it. So the repos and their associated. Now there are wikis here which we haven't been using too much, right?
There's some legacy wiki material. We may activate and make those wikis live again. But I think the thing about a wiki that probably everyone here has learned from past experience is that if there isn't an editor who's set to maintain it, it quickly becomes out of date and has lots of new material. So I think we have to look at those wikis, decide if they are in the right place to be the master copy of certain things, and decide who is going to maintain them and be the editor, and then we can revive them. The material is there in GitHub lost. It's just the question is, should it migrate to web pages or should it stay wiki? And we pointed out with elsewhere.
Okay. Now, one question about GitHub that I had, I know this happened with Robert. You got him set up with an account. If anybody around the table sets up an account and they don't necessarily have the privileges to submit.
Well, let me.
Yeah, you can come closer.
Up there. Does that make a difference?
Yeah, and actually I can point the camera at you if you want to come up here. And,
yeah. I can't see myself, but I see others. So, yeah, okay. I'm in the shadow.
Okay.
Hovering over the tables. GitHub is, so there's going to be this, do we want, can you all hear me?
Yeah, pay attention to the green dot.
Okay, the green dots say that I can be heard. What we have in these rooms that are in this workshop, and we're likely to have in the future as well, is this continuum of developer interest that goes from somebody who wants to like just do a tour using existing imagery, somebody who's maybe bringing in new images, somebody who's actually learning to use the SDKs to tile things together in some new way, all the way to someone who's perhaps going to actually fix a bug in the Windows client or the web client or something. And nobody should be forced to decide which class they fall into the moment they encounter the project, right? So we want to have a smooth path from you're doing something and you see there's a bug and you decide you're going to fix it. The next step is obvious. GitHub is probably not actually the entry point for most developers. I think the worldwidetelescope.org website is going to be the entry point. And then what we're in the process of doing right now is making sure that there are clear instructions, clear paths from that website to the appropriate places in GitHub. So I'm going to give you a sort of backdoor overview of some GitHub stuff right now, but the long-term goal, and people here, does somebody have a question? I thought I heard something. Okay. The long-term goal is that you land on worldwidetelescope.org, you have some idea of what you're trying to do, and the resources that are there direct you appropriately, and some of them will direct you to the right place in GitHub, if that's the thing you're trying to do. And we're trying to get the website to the point where people here can help create that documentation and help maintain it. So it's not just, there is no cabal. There is no like star chamber of people who are the ones who can, you know, fix a typo on the website and someone else can't. Like you can contribute documentation. And right now that path is a little rocky, but we're trying to make it smoother. And in the meantime, we'll help you get stuff into the website. So on GitHub, as Jonathan showed you, there's the web client. Everything is WWT-something. And that is so that if you're checking out cloning GitHub repositories to your own machine, and you're doing it in a place where you have other stuff, you have this WWT- prefix to keep it clear what stuff is related to Worldwide Telescope. There's a WWT-Windows client, -web client, also WWT-website, which is a repository that holds all the Worldwide Telescope.
Do you want me to share this again so that they can see that? Or?
GitHub, yeah, it would hurt.
Okay.
That way I don't have to look at myself. Makes it easier. One thing that we have sometimes, so the way GitHub works, really, really quick 1-minute overview is the basic unit of currency in GitHub is the repository. And though that lists the blue things on the left there, those are repositories. Well, if you click on one, like pick WWT home, actually, if you don't mind. This is an unusual repository because we don't store code in this one, but this is structured like any other repository. And if you go over to the right, you see it says code. We just have a couple of files, the README and the license file. And then there's an issues tab below that. If you click on issues, every repository has these. This repository only has 6 issues, as you can see. The Windows client has like 43 issues, some of which are open, 14 of which are closed. We expect it to be in the hundreds very soon. Having a lot of bug tickets filed is a good sign about your project. It means people are using it. What this particular WWT home GitHub repository is for issues that you want to file about the project as a whole. So, for example, there's a new issue, number 5, which is about we need to get the toastification code and some SDK code open sourced and out into GitHub repositories. Well, that's a general project issue. And so we file it here. You'll see a couple of issues that are shared between the Windows client and the HTML5 web client. Actually, that's what we should do is fix those two. Those are the new surface maps for Jupiter and for Pluto issues. What we've actually been doing is if you encounter an issue that's true of both clients, file it in one of them. Doesn't really matter which one. And then in the other one, you file a ticket that just links to the ticket.
But wouldn't it be? I mean, I think I put this in here, but I think
Yeah.
you know, it's actually not a client. It's not any client. It's a data.
Oh, it's a data issue.
It's a data issue.
Then those issues should stay.
Yeah. So I actually put them in there, close them there, and then put them here.
Yeah. So that WWT home is a good repository for anything that is applicable across the project, like data issues, obviously. Asset issues affect everything. So if you don't mind, real quick, just going to WWT-Windows-client. Yep. So this repository is very active. There's a lot of material in there. If you check this out and you have Visual Studio and stuff, you can build the Windows client on your own machine. If you go up, go to issues real quick. I just want to show people something. So yeah, 24 are open, 14 have been closed. I'm reading along the top, right above the list of issues there. And can you click right below the Issues tab on the Pull Requests tab? You know where there's... Yeah, that's fine. If you click on the 4 closed, this is... You don't have to memorize this. We're just showing you that what it looks like when somebody submits a pull request. That means that somebody checked out the code from GitHub, they cloned it into their own GitHub account. They made a change, perhaps they fixed a bug, and then a pull request means that they're requesting for the master repository, Worldwide Telescope / WWT Windows Client, to pull their changes in. That's what you're requesting someone else to pull something in. That's what pull request is. And so here, Mark Subarow fixed an issue. He describes the fix, and you can see that his commits are listed there in the pull request, and Jonathan reviewed it and he merged it in. So that's just a general workflow thing. GitHub can be confusing at first, so the first time you're doing this, if it's not immediately obvious what to do, for goodness sake, just email someone or get in the forums and ask for help. Like, it's very normal for hand-holding to happen for people's first few GitHub pull requests, and no one will think less of you. I mean, everyone who uses GitHub has been through this. It's kind of astonishing that that website took over the open source development world, considering how hard it is to learn how to use it first. But it did. It has been very effective once you learn how to use it. It's a really good system. The only other thing I'll say is that everything I'm telling you now, this stuff will all be expressed in developer-centric web pages on the worldwidetelescope.org website.
I'll just show that too.
There's already some developer pages. But a lot of this is, we're assembling these conventions as we go. Jonathan and Ron are starting to get their cycle of reviewing and merging pull requests down. And so that documentation is not complete yet. And I think it won't be complete until after the AAS meeting in January. But soon after that, it will be done.
Yeah, Mary has a question.
Yes.
Okay, if things are fixed and the GitHub, like on the web client, like I noticed Pluto is already good, and if you look it up on the web client, you can see the heart and all that. So that happens on the web client, but not on the Windows version.
The data should be the same on both. The Windows version, you may have a cache. You may have cached the data.
Okay.
If you had a tiled multi-resolution Pluto before, as the data gets changed, your client will still be reading the data that's local, or your laptop on a different machine.
So even on the old release, it'll have the new Pluto.
Right.
Okay.
Data and client versions aren't the same thing as you have a local copy here.
Thank you.
Doug?
Yes.
I think that in the case of the Pluto client, if we've actually pushed the code up, it does use a different URL, and it won't cache the data if we change the URL. So in that case, there shouldn't be an issue of it being cached.
Okay, I guess we can check that.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and check that, but I don't mean to interrupt this, to have everyone else wait while I'm doing that or anything. So.
Okay.
That's okay. I mean, we have an instance of a bug report, perhaps.
Right.
We'll just verify it.
Yeah, my question is, I don't think I understand where to put issues for what thing. Could there be a README or a code of conduct or some sort of file on GitHub that is from all of Worldwide Telescope, like kind of like maybe in the so I know, like, oh, okay, this is an issue that I found on the web client, but maybe I need to put it in this other place. So, because you mentioned briefly in the beginning of what you were just saying of where things go, maybe you should go here instead of here. But I mean, that's great for people at this workshop.
Oh, this absolutely has to be done. I mean, that's just one of many things.
One of the documentation. Okay.
But there's also, I mean, a lot of people aren't going to know when they encounter an issue. It might be a data issue, but if they encounter it while they're in the Windows client, they'll think it's a Windows client issue.
Yeah, but that's something that
well, when we get that issue, we just say, oh yeah, this is really data. We close it there, we open it, and the maintainers are always going to have to be doing that. That's just a kind of background process. So that's still normal. Oh, you're right. That should be documented.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very normal to like open things in the wrong place and have someone close it and fix it somewhere else.
So I'll
just part of development.
Back to the issue. I won't care yet.
But don't be shy. Just open it in what seems like the right place. Yeah. We'll do it.
So I was just going to go over quickly, just and this will also be a little bit relevant for the later talks that Jonathan and Ron will be giving, where they'll be talking about these things in more detail. But if you go to worldwidetelescope.org, under Develop, there's a few tabs that take you to different locations. So this one talks about the SDK, and then this one is Windows HTML5 SDK. This is a very long document. You can say printable view, or actually all. Give me a very long. If I want to print this out, is one long file. You can do it that way. If some people like to have a PDF that they can have locally instead of having to go online all the time to get it. Layer control. So as we go through this stuff, or as Ron and Jonathan go through this later, you might want to keep track with this, or just know where this stuff exists there. Also, at the bottom of that was where that's the place where you get this import image that Jonathan showed off earlier, where you can point a URL to the in this box, and then it'll do this thing where if it has AVM tags, it will send it to the cloud-based tiler and tile it, or if it doesn't, it'll send it to astrometry.net to be solved, and then once if it successfully gets coordinate information, it'll tile it that way. I suspect that if we, for now, although there may be a change in the organization, if we make any other image import type tools, they will live somewhere like under this image import area. But and then yeah, so and there is some, like, is this web form? Actually, it's been a while since I've looked at this. Is this web?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the forums.
Right. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, real quick. If you go to forums.worldwidetelescope.org.
This is the old forums here, right?
No,
This is the new one?
That's the new one.
Okay. So at the bottom, of the footer of the web worldwidetelescope.org website, there's a link to it, or you can go directly to forums.worldwidetelescope.org.
Yeah. I mean, this is linked to from worldwidetelescope.org. But this is a place where you can post questions. This is a place that's sort of meant for discussion. Like, you post, people read, they answer. That also happens with GitHub issues. Like, GitHub issues are also sort of linked to email, but it's a little bit less direct than this. This is an online forum where you see a discussion thread, and also if you set up, you sign in, you can get that discussion coming to you via email. You can respond via email. So those of us who are active in the forums have generally signed in such a way that we're getting email for every post, and we can respond via email. But you can just read it on the web too. You don't have to sign up. So this is the place to just ask a question. But if you're not sure who to ask, you go to forums and you ask. And we're watching, and we'll generally direct it to the right person, which lately has usually been Ron or Jonathan, sometimes you, Doug. But as the community grows, we'll be able to direct things. The traffic cops will have more directions to send things.
Right.
And that's kind of that's a normal process for the open source project. So if you only remember two things, aside from worldwidetelescope.org, forums.worldwidetelescope.org, and github.com/worldwidetelescope. And between that and asking questions, you can pretty much get to do anything you need to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So are there any questions on the far side about any of this stuff?
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Okay.
Cool.
So we're a little bit late for a break. We were supposed to go for the last 15 minutes. So why don't we take well, it's short, but maybe a 10-minute break and come back a quarter after the hour, and we'll start up at that point.